Welcome to Hey Dad Podcast. Real dads, tough issues, and a genuine love for a fatherless generation.
Hello and welcome to Hey Dad Podcast. I'm Rick Rivera and I'm here with Chris Lawler.
Howdy.
And Chris Lawler's son, James Lawler.
There's Jimmy.
He's Lawler. There you go.
Good job, son.
We're missing Frank again, but he'll be back soon. Today's subject is children of divorce. I do want to just give a little opening warning about the subject. Tough subject to talk about. Some of the challenges is some of the people listening have already gone through a divorce where children were involved. And so we're not in any way try to sit here and condemn or make anyone feel guilty or any type of resentment. But we do want to try to help people who maybe are starting down that road or are in the middle of it or who want to prevent it. So we feel it's important to talk about for that reason.
And honestly, a lot of these a fatherless generation are fatherless because of this divorce situation.
Right.
So this is exactly what creates this phenomena. Not 100%, but a great majority of it is because divorce screws things up.
So we want to contribute to anything that would help prevent it, anything that would help people to have a healthy, good marriage, enter into a good, healthy marriage, maintain it. And, we want to share our mistakes, our struggles, things that we've experienced. This is a huge subject. So Chris, I think we could try to take a small bite out of it, but I was making notes for the show, it really just goes on and on. The issues attached to this,
Yeah.
But I think you and I are a good start to have this conversation. Your parents were divorced growing up. How old were you?
Well, I've gone through two divorces. The first breakup with my mom and my birth father happened when I was about 1 year old.
All right.
And then the divorce with my stepdad, who I bonded to, that happened in my teenage years.
Okay.
So I double dipped.
I have some statistics on the challenges that come with that. So you're kind of double screwed.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, James. Okay. And myself, my parents divorced when I was in about fifth grade, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. But both my parents have been married like 4 times each.
Yeah.
So, but I was spared from that because I was with my grandmother during those times,
Right.
So I didn't have to go through all that. So I've chewed this bitter root as well, So I think we're qualified, our credentials include.
Yeah. Now you can read all kinds of books about children of divorce. That's a pretty well discovered and explored topic, especially in our generation. And past generations, they kind of want to sweep it under the rug and not even really pay much attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
And but it leaves profound impacts that go all the way into your adult life and affect your marriage.
Yep.
So this divorce thing is a thing that gets passed down as an inheritance from generation to generation to generation.
And it's funny, like anybody I've known whose marriage has struggled, which is really common, they always say the same thing. Well, it's better for everyone because everyone's tired of the fighting.
Yeah.
And the problem is, though, I'm not too sure if I buy that.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. There could be truth in that at times.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm talking about verbal arguments.
Jimmy, we're in the middle of a broadcast, buddy. Yeah, so pay attention.
James had some demands on the sound, so
that's right.
Thank you, James.
I can always go home and make another son, James, and we'll just kind of take care of you in some special way. Okay?
Okay.
Think about that. Can you hear that one tumbler rolling around in there?
Okay.
That's my boy.
But the truth of the matter is divorce is devastating to children.
Yeah.
Devastating. And this is a tough subject because you have people who divorce just because they're frustrated and tired, but then you have other issues like abuse, infidelity. That's kind of a different realm, you know. I think those situations. Well, one is I don't want to go into divorce. This is children of a divorce, but there's different reasons. So this will apply to who it applies to, and this is such a broad topic. We're just talking about the repercussions of divorce on children. Right. Yeah. So I'm just going to read some statistics here to get us launched, which I found interesting and sad. In this day and age, 50% of children will experience a divorce. And it wasn't always like this. It used to be far less.
50%.
50%.
Yeah. Pause. Selah. Think about that. That's half of the population. Half of all kids.
Half the children
are getting crippled in this situation.
Well, listen to these statistics. When you're a child of divorce, you're 2 times as likely to drop out of high school.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? Right out of the gate. And I dropped out of high school. I did go back, but I dropped out of high school. You're 2 times more likely to attempt suicide. Ouch. And this is why there's a trigger warning on this one, guys. I know some of you, gone through divorce and you've had children in that process. I'm just not here to try to make anyone feel bad or to break anyone, but this is to try to help people realize, man, I got to fight for my marriage. There's something worth fighting for here. There's consequences to this. This world tries to make it sound so easy. There was even a billboard, and it disgusted me, that said, life is short, get a divorce. And It was by a divorce attorney. And I thought to myself, that's just pure heathenism, because do you understand? You're going to make your little profit off the divorce, but do you understand what happens to the family?
Right. Well, it's the myth that, when people get a divorce, they think they're ending something tragic. All they're doing is beginning something tragic.
Right.
That's going to lead right through the rest of their life. And they never get away from that first marriage.
Yeah.
You divorce them, but that old, beat up, worn out, and battered marriage is dragged right along with you right into your next marriage.
And sometimes it even gets worse. There's so much bitterness over the divorce that both parents keep trying to hurt each other.
Yeah.
Some drag the kids into this. And a lot of people out there I know can relate to this. The kids get dragged in. Now the parents are trying to turn the kids against the other one.
Right.
Or let's just say, well, here's a true story. I knew this girl. She was a coworker. Her daughter had beautiful long hair, and she went through the ugly divorce. Well, the father had her for his allotted time, and he took the little girl with his new girlfriend and cut her hair short. I mean, he cut like 3 feet of hair off this little girl.
Yeah.
And he did it just to be mean, and it was effective and it worked. So you have this ugliness that sometimes they're still trying to hurt each other. And I'm speaking to men, because I'm a man, and I feel I'm entitled to speak to men. You can get back at your ex, but the truth is you're hurting your children. Don't go after them. Everything you do, and you can. It's easy to hurt other people. Mean is easy. But as you hurt your ex, you're hurting your children even more. Pray your ex is happy. Contribute to her happiness, because that's your children you're affecting. Every mean thing you do, you're doing it to your children. So please get that straight and understand that. And if you can use that to help you control that pain where you want to get back, or control any meanness that she's coming at you with, use it and understand it's your children. So
it's an issue of investment. The first divorce that I experienced, and I'm 1 year old, so I don't know what in the world's going on. I'm just a baby.
Yeah.
And this was back in the early 60s, maybe 59, right? Maybe even before the 60s. Well, back then, the common knowledge was that when the father got divorced from his wife, the kids always go with the wife, and that the father stands down and gets out of the way so that a new father can take over and bond with those children. My dad played it that way. Now, he was savagely damaged emotionally from the divorce. He didn't want it, didn't want that, but my mom kind of forced it on him. He stood down and wasn't involved in my life for these critical years from when I was about 1 till about 5. Now, I remember I don't remember things then because I'm too young, but I have discovered handwritten notes that I wrote to my dad saying, I haven't seen you, and someday I'll see you. Maybe I can see you on my fifth, when I turn my 5th birthday.
Wow.
Or something to that nature. It's all crayon, scribbly kind of a note to my dad. But what it was is showed evidence that my dad was not in my life in those early years. Now, the guy that was in my life was the stepfather that stepped in his place, who, married my mom. And, he was a good guy as far as he could be. I mean, he was as good as he could be, but I'm not his child. I'm the baggage that came along with the girl he wanted, along with my sisters as well. So he did his best, I think. This is me looking back mercifully from an adult perspective, but he simply didn't have the emotional bond with us that my real father would have had. But here's the cost. Because my real father stepped out of my life and didn't contact me in those beginning formative years, I developed no bond to him.
Right. No
bond. Now later he would start showing up and he would bring us little, toys and things like that from his business. But he was like this nice man that would visit once in a while, and I had no idea I had no reference point to understand that was an unusual circumstance, But I accepted it. He was just this friendly guy. And we called him, Daddy Blaine. That was our name for him. My mom gave us that handle. But I never formed a bonding.
Wow.
Now, the payoff, if you want to put it that way, way late in life, I wasn't bonded to him as an adult. And when my dad got old and he wanted to have a meaningful relationship with his son, I didn't have that foundation laid in me.
Right.
And it was just freaking and awkward.
Right.
So that's my first tip that's coming from me as we enter this conversation is if you're in a situation where you go through some kind of a nasty divorce, regardless of who's at fault, you got to stay in touch with your kids.
Yep.
Don't drop out. You got to stay, even if it's awkward, even if it's difficult, even if you're a Sunday father that's going to go to excesses, you got to stay involved.
Yep.
As much as you possibly can, because if you don't do that, they're not going to be there for you when you get old. And they're going to be that fatherless generation.
So right out of the gate, we're saying two things. One is don't hurt your ex-partner because you're hurting your children.
Mm-hmm.
And two, don't break relation off with your children. Don't let it be your excuse to shrug the responsibility because it matters. It matters a lot, and it's important. And, these are tough things for some people because some people have been really hurt by the women in their lives. But I'm sorry, but this is big boy pants time. This is man talk. It's not a show how to be a boy. That's easy. And the world's got that mastered. This is showing how to be a man and be a man of Christ and be strong.
And this is us recognizing this is really difficult.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
Because, when you're the dad that comes home at night, that brings your job home, you sit down, you crack a beer, you're watching the football game, you got your kids running around. There's so many things that just come easy and they come natural. And in fact, you kind of can't avoid them. Little encounters, little moments where somebody comes around, tie my shoe, or a son might bring a toy and want to play with you or drag you out in the front yard to throw the ball.
Right.
And when you become a divorced dad, every one of these moments has to be orchestrated.
Yeah.
They'll have to be matters of appointment.
Right.
And sometimes the things that you did that came natural are restricted.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a hostile divorce going on, that your ex can make things very hard.
It's always hostile, isn't it? I mean, not always, but most of the time it is. It's ugly and it's sad, And I, thinking about it from that perspective too, as a father now, divorced and your kids are not in your home, you still have to work.
Mm-hmm.
A big chunk of your paycheck's taken away. You still have to survive off that.
Yep.
Your life moves on. You marry again or you meet another person. And then you have the kid issue on the side, which is still an investment of time. And it's hard. I mean, so my heartfelt advice is if you're in the middle of a marriage that's falling apart, or you, better yet, you want to try to avoid it getting there, hear us out, guys. Seek help. Try to avoid it altogether. The grass is always greener, but in this case, the grass is tragic. The other grass is tragic, and the consequences to your children are tragic. Mm-hmm. So we're just barely touching on a few of these issues we're speaking about. Listen to this statistic. 70% of people in prison come from broken homes.
Yeah.
70%. It says a lot.
Yeah. Well, when you have your paradigm, one of the foundational paradigms of growing up broken,
right.
When I was a kid, and this is after my real father had moved on, and now I've got my stepfather in my life. You have this assumption that there's my dad, stepdad, there's my mom, this is the way life should be. And I'm going to work all the problems and go through all the phases of growing up with my parents covering me. Now, when something comes along and shatters that, and in my case, it was shattered many times over the years. Mm-hmm. There were split ups, and then we get back together, split ups, get together. This shattering cracks everything right down to the foundation of what you believe about life.
Yeah.
And so I would have friends of mine that would have this sense of confidence that came because they didn't have to tend to their foundation. Their foundation was rock solid.
All right.
They had a home. There was a Jewish kid that lived up the street from me, and I would go up to his house and play Monopoly, and he would clean my clock every single time.
Where are you going with that one?
Yeah, I'm not going to touch that, but my God, this guy knew. But I loved going up there because when I was in that boy's home, his mom was cooking dinner. His dad was coming home. His dad would come home and do projects with him.
Yeah.
And even if it wasn't my family, being close to that shelter was so healing. It was such a healing balm for me.
Yeah.
But eventually I had to go home. I had to leave that peaceful sanctuary and get back down the street where all hell could be breaking loose at any moment. But you have this sense that when you're growing and your foundation gets shattered and you're uncertain about it, it's like when you twist your ankle and you forget how to walk on your foot. Yeah. Everything's unstable.
I've always thought of it from my experience. I would think I was in 5th grade when my parents divorced. It's like the ground underneath your feet just disintegrating, and there's nothing underneath it. You have so much of your safety in your family and in your parents, even if they're fighting. Oh my gosh, did my parents fight? But when they divorced, it just felt like the floor got crumbled underneath my feet. And it's funny you say that. I would go to my friends' houses who parents were together, had good homes, and I felt safe there. And if the dad ever told us, unfortunately for me, like my dad took off, my mom took off, we were with my grandma, so it's a little bit different for me. But when when my friend's dad would tell us something like, hey, go pick up that wood in the backyard, move it to the side of the house, my friend would automatically start complaining, oh, Dad, come on. And I did it like that. Just to be bossed around by a father figure, to me, it was refreshing and it felt safe.
Yes.
And it's crazy. It's a part of the dynamics of divorce. And I just remember being very anxious all the time. These statistics we're reading, I honestly found them very much to be true because I understand this. Also, to be quite honest, shortly after this, drugs and alcohol came into my life.
Right.
Shortly after.
And why would you say no?
Why? Exactly.
There's no reason. There's no foundation for which to stand and take a stand and stay straight edge. Everything's up in the air.
There's no right. There's no wrong.
Yeah. So you're susceptible to every little thing. That's why, one of the first episodes we did, we talked about who our father images were. Mm-hmm. And I said, the rifleman.
Yeah.
Because right in that period of time in my life, everything was unstable away from that TV screen.
Yeah.
Everything happening behind me in the kitchen, in the bathroom, in the bedroom, everything was completely unstable. You never knew what was going to happen next.
Right.
But when I watched Rifleman, thank God those guys who wrote that show.
Yeah.
They wrote a script that gave me a consistent image of a man that knew the right thing to do. And I was right there with Mark, his son, with everything that the Rifleman told him to do. Same thing with Andy Griffith. You know, Andy Griffith and Opie, boy, make me Opie's brother any day.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, to bathe in that kind of wisdom, to bathe in that kind of good-naturedness.
Safety. And love, But so it's funny, for the children, it's so shattering. And so when I hear people, when they're thinking about divorce, talking about, they always say what's better for the children. I question that. Now again, there's things that fall. If there's physical abuse or emotional, abuse, there's things that take this, what I'm saying changes the statement of what I'm saying. But I'm talking about those who are just, man, I'm just tired of her. Everything she says annoys me. I want out. And it'll be better for the children if we divorce. I disagree with that. No, it's not. It's not. Then why are all these statistics here?
Right.
You damage your child on levels you don't even understand. And the funny thing is this too, because the kids don't understand it either. And the kids start walking around with this ball of anger in them. And they start acting out in ways, though 70% of them end up in jail, or 70% of prison inmates come from these homes. But they have this ball of anger in them. They don't even understand why.
Right.
Well, why are they drawn to alcohol to numb their pain? Why are they getting in fights? It's that anger spilling out.
Yeah.
You know, and it's devastating.
Yeah. I remember my play when I was little was to be super reclusive. I thought I would just withdraw so deep into myself that nobody could touch me. My mom couldn't talk to me. Nobody could talk to me. And I know I can put myself in that state of mind even today, and I'm 65 years old, where I'm thinking that if I could just be hidden enough, people will beat a path to my door. Yeah. And they will come out of whatever their conflict is. Yeah. Oh, Chris, what's the matter with you? Yeah. Let me set everything aside because you're so worth it to find you and bring you out from that place you're hidden from. Right. What an idiot. You know, any of those attitudes Chris, would never
you were so
solve
young,
a problem.
Dude. I mean, and you couldn't even articulate this when you're a kid.
No.
I look back now and because there's things I did in my life that I'm truly ashamed of. And I think back, I think I was filled with anger. I didn't even know it. If you would have asked me, are you angry? No, I'm not angry. Yeah. I'm cool. I'm just going to the park, play basketball. You don't understand it's there, but it's there.
Sure.
And
or where I really started tapping the anger is when I got to be a teenager.
Yeah.
And this is when I was encountering my stepdad's breakup with my mom. Now, my stepdad was there during those formative years. So I had all my investment in him. He was my dad.
He was your guy, right?
And when everything started going wobbly and started breaking apart for him, and this is issues with my mom that I had no clue. I had no idea why they were fighting or why can't they get along? You know, this is incomprehensible to me because I'm not privy. I don't have a front row seat to what's really going on inside their relationship. Now, looking back, I can see clues that alcohol was involved. My mom was alcoholic. She was a drug addict at one point. My dad had no Christian paradigm to fight for his marriage. So when things started going bad, it gets to a point where you hit the point of equilibrium and you pass the meridian. Now, instead of trying to dig our way back, now I'm digging my way out.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. My dad started, how can I get out of this?
Yeah, exactly. It's funny. We're talking about the consequences of the children, but the parents are going through their thing too.
Yeah.
This is devastating. We're going to be speaking about divorce soon, but we wanted to wait and have Frank involved in the conversation because Frank experienced divorce and we want to hear from his perspective on it. But so that one's coming, But the one thing, my plea is to people is the ones who some are very proactive. This was me. I don't ever want to be divorced. I'm investing in my marriage in every way I know how. Every way I know how. So for me, we brought God into our marriage, which has been beautiful. We've gone to marriage seminars because one thing me and my wife realized is, we both come from, her mom was married 4 times too, and she didn't know her father. So there's a whole history of brokenness in us.
Yeah.
And we knew we love each other deeply, and we know that we don't know how to make this work. So the one thing we did is we stayed in church, and then we would go to marriage seminars. Even if we weren't fighting, we just went to go. Right. And what can I glean from this? What nuggets of gold can I get? And I found some beautiful ones. We've been to some seminars that were boring. We went to some seminars that were awesome, but all was good. And so we always invested in that to learn these tools that we never had. So one is there's the proactive people out there. Be proactive, fight and invest in your marriage. But part of that, a man has to be called to a selfless life. Mm-hmm. It seems like the pattern of today's men is I smoke pot, hang out in my garage, and play video games. And these are married men with children.
Yeah.
Now your wife's got to carry the whole emotional and physical lifting of taking care of the kids, watching over them, and you're stressed and you just want to check out. My gosh, break out of that now. You know, when your kids are grown, you'll get back to your video games. You probably won't want to at that time, honestly. But stop checking out on them. Stay checked in your family and be proactive about making sure your wife's happy. Care and take care of your wife.
Well, think about this, guys. You generation that we are doing this show and we're giving up our days to speak to you. You're that fatherless generation who's doing those things that Rick just talked about, the video games, the just checking out, the dealing with your own wounds. Where do you think you got that idea from? That came from the generation behind you.
Yeah.
And they got it from the one that came before them.
That's true.
So you're really dealing with a bad hand of cards that's been passed on from father to son to father to son to father to son. Somebody has got to break that line.
Right.
And the only way to break it is be willing to give up your life.
Yeah.
And this is the thing about the Christian paradigm. You can get married under many other paradigms. There's a lot of new agey kind of arrangements that kind of create their own reality. But the Christian paradigm of marriage is that a husband will come and lay down his life for his wife, the way that Jesus laid down his life for his church. And I know we want to save this conversation for Frank because he has a lot to say about that. Mm. But if you don't have that paradigm, that's where you drift into just taking care of number one.
That's what the world teaches you. It's about me. Yeah. My wife has to make me happy. You know, and you're looking at it wrong. We are called to love our wives, and that encompasses taking care of them, meeting their needs. It's you know, and then we say, like a man will say, "Oh yeah, I'll take a bullet. If a bullet comes to my wife, I'll step, or a car, I'll step in front." Well, guess what? It also encompasses don't play video games. It also encompasses don't go out with your friends and leave your wife alone with the kids. That's that sacrificial living. You have to take joy and pride in how well you take care of your wife, because if you take care of your wife, she'll take care of your children. And, you know, the happy wife, happy life, it's a funny saying and everything, but it's very true. You have to be understanding to your wife's needs, and you have to care for her. What I see happens a lot is guys become apathetic towards their wives, and their wives, they're hurt, but that hurt builds to resentment, and then that resentment builds to hatred. And then out of nowhere, oh, my wife's divorcing me, I don't know why. Well, you've been unplugged from her. You have to understand her needs.
Yeah.
And her needs is going to encompass, take me to my mom's house and let's go have dinner over there. And you can be, I'd rather smoke pot and play video games in the garage. That's the truth. Here's the truth.
Yeah.
Big boy pants time. And this is where you have to be a man. You want to know what separates the men from the boys? It's these little actions like this.
Right.
Where you put your wife first. And in all honesty, full disclosure, sometimes it sucks.
Yeah.
But it's not about you.
Right.
It's not about you. You know, live a sacrificial life for your...
The greater the pain, the greater the honor.
Honestly, yes.
Now, I look at Rick. I know your wife, Copy. Yeah. It's like, that's easy for you to say, bro. Your wife is a triple black belt woman.
Yeah.
I mean, that woman rocks. She's like a circus freak that can keep 15 plates spinning in the background and knit you a wool sweater and sing in the choir all at the same time.
Right.
You know, so it seems to me. But what isn't... Oh, James, you have something to say?
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
What? Let me get this question for you guys, okay?
Can I finish what I was saying first?
Yeah.
Okay. What I'm going to say is that, Rick, you made Copy. In many ways, you may not admit this, but in many ways, she came to you a blank slate with all kinds of hopes and dreams, and marrying you with good intentions, but really not knowing what the future was going to hold. You put seed and watered that garden and brought forth this woman that is an incredible treasure. This is the secret, guys. You have the ability to make this woman the woman of your dreams. They come to you pretty unfinished, like buying a kit, you know, where it's just all the parts.
Yeah.
If you treat her well and sacrifice yourself and water it with your sacrifice, water the garden with your sacrifice of time, love, and attention, you'll create in this woman someone that is a force of nature that will in turn bless you 100-fold.
Yeah. Chris, I've always said that women will always outlove a man. And that's just the truth.
Yeah.
The love comes back in ways we don't get, though. What does the love to a man mean? Oh, I want sex. I want this. I want that. Me. But they'll give you love back, and they're going to raise your children right. They're going to raise your children with love. They're going to take care of you. Clean socks. I mean, heck, I'd wear the same old socks for a week. It wouldn't matter to me. But they're going to give you love back in ways that you may not really get that love. It's not satisfying the way you want it to be satisfying. But if you love and take care of them, your whole life will be better. I wish I can say all women were good. No, you have. Yeah. There's some bad people out. There's people with not good intentions.
Fractured people.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but if you have a well-intentioned wife, you take care of her, you're going to receive love back.
Right.
But you have to accept the role. It's a biblical role of a man. It really is,
That's what leadership is. Leadership means you're usually out there in front all by yourself.
Right.
And you're doing it before anybody else is doing it. Exactly. So the kind of sacrifice you're doing, you wish your wife would do it for you. You can't understand why she can't see how simple it would be to lay down her life for you, and she's not doing it. And there's a big temptation that I could build a lot of resentment and anger about this situation. Mm-hmm. But what she's waiting for is that, did I marry a leader who would actually do this before I did it?
Right.
That would actually go out there and blaze the trail into the wilderness of sacrifice so that I could follow him.
Right.
If you're that kind of man, if you rise to be that kind of a man that says, I'll take the burden on myself, believe me, your wife will follow you.
It's a true statement. And in this day and age, it may not be a popular statement, but a woman will always follow a good man.
Yeah.
But the problem is we're all smoking pot in our garages playing video games. That's like an epidemic.
Which video games? Does that matter?
And they're not making any money off it or anything. But imagine your poor wife. She needs that emotional. She needs to be loved, and she needs the emotional attachment. Yeah. And she's losing you to a video game. What are you, 6 years old? Yeah. I mean, okay, mercy on the guys. Hey, there's depression. There's struggles we have, and I get it, man.
And you didn't have a dad to show you the way. Honestly. That's why we're doing this.
That's why we're doing this.
That's why we're doing this. We realize that if you're the guy that had a great dad, then maybe all these things we're saying is kind of missing you.
Yeah.
Or it's kind of all right, Captain Obvious here. But if you're a guy that didn't have a really good dad that laid down a pattern for you, you are entering into your adult life with more mystery than solutions.
Yeah.
We're telling you this is the way.
Yeah.
What does the Mandalorian say? I love when he goes in. This is the way.
Exactly.
Okay. This is the way, brothers. The way to a life where your family doesn't crash and burn.
Right.
In a horrible train wreck down the line is paved with your sacrifice.
Right.
You got to lay your life down like paving stones.
Right.
A pathway for your wife to follow you. And if she follows you, all your kids will follow as well.
And it's funny, when you come from when you're a child of divorce or a broken home, you're not given the tools like you're saying. You're not given the tools. It's like, hey, go change a tire, and you just have a few screwdrivers. You can't. You need a lug nut. You need a lug wrench. If you're not given the right tools, you got to go find them. You weren't taught them. Okay, boo-hoo, dude. Sorry, bad start. Right. Get it. But you can go out there and get these tools. And this is where we come back to the concepts and the premise of faith in God and Jesus Christ. There's a Bible that has all the rules you need.
Right.
And you want the direction. And here's the sad thing is, a lot of the guys out there, they mean well. They want good things. They want it. They just don't have the rules. And today's society is saying, hey, north to south, south to north. If it feels good, do it. Just don't judge anyone.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, guys. That stuff's crap. You got to drop that stuff. You have to have your feet on foundations. You need rules. You need guidance. And then this is what this is about. And this is coming from men who didn't start with that guidance.
Right.
And we understood. We gravitated to it for our own survival.
How did we find it?
God found me, I think. And I thank God for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
God, it resonated with me. I went from chaos to order. And that resonated with me, and I wanted more of it. You know? So.
At the height of the chaos in my life, when I was a young teenager, all the wheels were falling off. My dad was moving out. He'd already found another woman. He moved in and was living with another woman. My mom was circling the drain in her addiction. My grandmother was bipolar, laid on the sofa, turned in, didn't move for a month.
Wow.
It was an absolute train wreck. And you know what? I went to a little church somewhere in my neighborhood, and I made that pastor baptize me 6 times. Because every time he did I got out of that and I was like, I didn't really feel anything happen. So
I want to make sure.
Maybe I didn't do it the right way, you know? Yeah. So I kept doing it. And finally the pastor says, it's not about the way you do it, it's what happens after, you know? But he gave me a foundation. And what I did is I transferred all my need for direction in life off of my damaged parents, and I put it on God's lap.
Right.
I said, Lord, you got to lead me. You know, if I'm going to amount to anything in this life, you're the one that's got to shape me, because my parents are just human beings and they can't do it.
Right.
And I can't do it because I'm just a human being too.
Exactly. And it's funny too. We didn't know.
Yeah.
There's understanding and concepts we did not know and we were blind to, you know? Let me just shoot off another statistic here. And I'm looking to Mark to give me a wink on the time. I lost track completely, Mark, and I apologize.
36 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Nancy, this could go on
Maybe we need another show on this.
Maybe. You know what, guys? Let's wind it up here. We're gonna come back to this because, man, we hit
we're gonna pick up part 2.
Yeah, part
after
20.
this.
See, part 20. Really, honestly, it's a heavy subject.
Yeah,
guys, I'm sorry for coming down on you too hard. This is big boy pants stuff, though. This is, you want to know where it separates men from the boys? It's this level of sacrifice.
Right.
It's the secret sauce to a good marriage, and to love your wives and your children. And I know you guys love your kids, and you guys love your wife more than life.
And you want things to work out.
You do.
You really do. I know you do. We're telling you to step up.
Right.
Step up. Join this brotherhood.
Right.
Because we stepped up and it was hard for us too.
Yes.
So when you wail and you howl in agony over the things that you have to do to save your marriage, realize you're adding your voice to the chorus that's already been going on.
Yep. It's painful. It's like working out. It hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts. But it is what it is.
Welcome to the brotherhood.
Welcome to the brotherhood, guys. Yep. Let's link arms, man. Let's cry and fight together, guys.
Yeah.
And we'll get that. So just quick walkaways, guys. Your children are devastated by divorce. Don't fool yourself. That's just the hard truth of it. Fight. Be proactive. Protect your marriage. Love your wife. Understand that God's the answer. The Bible has the principles of manhood and how a man should live his life. And if you follow them, your life's going to be a lot better, and it will be right. And at least you'll be right with God. Mm-hmm. So do that. We're going to come back to this, guys, because there's so much more in this. They were just kind of scratching the surface. We'll figure out a format for that, whether next time or the time after that. Maybe down the road too. We could pick up on this. But that's it for now. Chris, I'm going to ask you to close me in prayer. Close us in prayer, I should say.
Father, just lift up every guy that needs answers, that is in their life right now. They're in the battle, right there in the battle, and they're hunkered down, and the bullets are flying overhead, and they just need ammo. They need some help. Father, that help is not really us. It really comes from you. And you have the ability, using our words or in spite of our words, to visit these men and give them what they need. If their heart is to stand and be a representative of you, an ambassador of God on this earth, and love their wives the way you intended from the beginning of creation, then help is on the way. Help will come. Father, and I ask you just to give them peace and stir something inside that makes them uncomfortable with where they're at now, so they're motivated to step further up. In the name of Jesus.
Jesus Christ, we pray.
Amen.
Guys, thank you for joining us. We really do love you, and we hope you walk away with something from this. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.